Georgia Gibbs is an international supermodel with a social following of over 663,000. From first glance, you'll be captivated by her beauty, but she is so much more than a pretty face. In this episode, she opens up about suffering in a toxic relationship that over time dimmed her light and destroyed her confidence. Shortly after that relationship ended, she suffered a health crisis that halted her modeling career overnight. What started as acne and rosacea covering her face quickly led to countless diagnoses where she was ultimately told she'd never fully heal. For years, she's been on a journey to heal herself naturally, which has led to self-discovery and sparked a deep passion for healing others through becoming a Chinese herbalist. She reflects on the lessons learned while being in that toxic relationship that I know many of you are going to resonate with. Georgia talks about how humbling it was to realize her confidence was tied to her external appearance and the extensive work she's done to gain true and genuine confidence. She dives deep into her health journey and how Chinese medicine helped her to heal from the inside out. She discusses how the unconditional love of her partner helped her to fall in love with herself. It's a beautiful, emotional, and value-packed episode where she shows how her greatest pain became her greatest purpose. Her story is truly inspiring, and I'm so excited for you to get to know my dear friend on a much deeper level. Enjoy this incredible episode with the one and only Georgia Gibbs. What's up, friends? It's Jordan, and you're listening to the I Am More Than podcast. We're a community of multifaceted and imperfect women here to inspire, educate, entertain, and grow together. We're excited you're here to hang with us and happy to have you part of the More Than movement. Anybody that knows you or is watching the podcast now, it is obvious that you are drop dead gorgeous. We all know this. But the cool thing about you is that your beauty really does shine from within. And I know that's so cheesy to say, but you're such a beautiful person inside and out. So I'm excited for our audience to get to know you deeper.
Open the podcast with tears.
It's the best way to open it. No other way. We were just talking off air that I literally went back in our Instagram DMs to see, I feel like we've known each other forever. How did we actually connect? And it was 2016. You were living in Australia. Your modeling career had taken off, and you were so kind that I had reached out cold DM'd. We'd never met. You responded, you gave me advice about the modeling industry, and we've been friends ever since. So that just speaks to your character. You are wonderful. So take me through when you got into the modeling industry a little bit. I want to hear your backstory before we go into your whole health journey. So what was growing up in Australia and getting into the modeling industry like?
Yeah, so it was definitely a big shock to the system. I grew up in a small town outside of Perth, Western Australia, which most of you have probably never been to. And if you've been to Australia, you probably didn't bother to go to the West Coast because it's so far from everything. And yeah, I grew up just really normal. I mean, my dad was a police officer. My mom is a counselor and a metaphysical coach. So I just kind of grew up with a very beautiful Australian upbringing on the coast. I felt really blessed to have that kind of upbringing. And then I was actually meant to go to university, and I was deciding to do either medicine, physiotherapy, occupational therapy. And my friend entered me into Australia's Next Top Model. Hilarious.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. And then I ended up doing that, realized that houses of groups of girls are not really my thing at
Fair.
all. I did bad enough at school. I got super bullied at school, and it was just my worst nightmare, come full circle. So yeah, opted out of that one, but ended up moving to the East Coast, which anyone that's American that's listening, it's kind of the equivalent of New York to LA. And I was 18 turning 19 at this time. So I kind of moved and was I'm going to give the modeling industry a chance, and I was working as a waitress. I was working on Saturdays at a store called Lorna Jane, which I now model for, which is hilarious.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so fun and so full circle. And I was nannying. I was doing a bit of everything. And then modeling started going just really well, kind of really organically. And then Instagram started happening. And then Sports Illustrated found me on Instagram, back in old Instagram days. And I ended up going to New York on my 21st birthday. So I went for my first casting with them. the day of my 21st birthday, June 11, I think it was 2017 from memory. And then spent my 21st birthday alone in New York with a girl that I met at the casting, which was like just like super fun and so surreal. And then, yeah, ended up just kind of like traveling the world with modeling, which is like never what I planned to do with my life. I always wanted to work in a job that was an act of service. I've always felt like I wanted to be like of service to people. I'm a people's person. I love people as much as we all know we can frustrate each other. I'm like still just such a people's person. And yeah, so I kind of went full circle, did the modeling thing, then learned that I had never really like worked on myself. And I was like 21, 22, 23, like traveling the world with like no boundaries in toxic relationships, realizing I didn't have like the support or the foundations around me to actually like thrive in the industry, right? Like I didn't have a mom or a parent that could relate to my crazy life of working, getting paid in seven countries and different currencies and foreign taxes that no one tells you about, right? So it just was like such a shock to the system. And I was also in like a really toxic relationship. And we all know how it is when you're trying to model and everyone thinks it's so glamorous, but like you have to literally like fake if you're having a terrible day. Like I remember my ex-boyfriend like cheated on me and I had to like go to a shoot and like pretend that I was happy, you know? And there are the things that like people just like don't realize because when you're modeling, like you just have to like you have to be on and you have to be your best always. You're not allowed to just be a human and have an off day, right? So it was really hard. And then I basically did like 140 flights in a year. And then yeah, and then
Well,
I know. And then yeah, my boyfriend at the time was a nightmare. And I just more than that, I realized so many things about myself that I had never realized. And I think growing up in like a small town in Australia, I'd never had a need to have boundaries, right? I'd never like been taught to have healthy boundaries. And I think that just came from like always wanting to be a people pleaser. Like whether it was in my family or with friends, I just always was so desperate to be liked. And I think that comes from like a lot of things, and we could unpack that for hours. But I definitely was just like really very much, and I'm still teaching myself to this day. Like I catch myself doing it, just being such a people pleaser and being someone that like just has to be liked and didn't understand if someone didn't like me, you know? And I think that in my mental health was way more of a contributor to my health collapse. And I guess it was like end of 2017 after Sports Illustrated with the relationship thing and then mental health stuff. And like my body just like screamed at me and was like, no, like I'm done, you know, I'm completely done. And it was really interesting. I'm like a firm believer in like the universe will like force on you until you like learn your lesson. And there's been so many red flags in my health that I just ignored. So then the universe was like, okay, I'm going to give you cystic acne like overnight because then you literally can't do your job. Like you can't be a model and go to your modeling shoots and continue doing your job. And maybe you'll have to look inward at yourself, right? So it was like,
forcing you.
yeah, it was like, okay, I'm just going to force you to like take charge of your life. And that's kind of what happened. I got like cystic acne. I lost half my hair. I had so many doctors basically telling me like it's either immune suppressants and antidepressants for the rest of your life, or like you can be unmedicated and feel this horrible way. So I had like so many different autoimmune labels thrown at me, food sensitivities, food allergies, rosacea, acne, interstitial cystitis, chronic urinary tract infections, HPV, hair loss, you name it, like all of the things. Metabolic disease, we got told that I probably would never be able to hold a child, all the things, right? My body was just like screaming at me. And I'm a firm believer, like, you know, your health is good when you're horny and you're hungry. Like, it's pretty, like, you know,
There you
you're
go.
healthy if you're horny and you're hungry. Like, you're pretty good, right? And I remember being like 23, being like, I am neither of those things. You know, I'm just like struggling in like survival mode of just like trying to figure it out, right? Um, so then it was really beautiful that my life kind of came full circle. And I ended up studying the medicine that brought me so much healing, which was like traditional Chinese herbal medicine. So I studied that for 3.5 years full time, and I graduated last month. And now I've got this like full circle serendipitous feeling of like wanting originally when I was, young to work in the health field, getting thrown into modeling to go through my own health journey. And now I'm in a place of like complete compassion with the people that I work with on their health journey. And I get to be of service and still modeling, but like it's a really beautiful balance that I'm like sitting in right now.
Girl, we have a lot to unpack there. But I think it's so amazing how full circle it all has come. And you've also had such a beautiful perspective because you've had a lot of shit thrown at you over the last, 6 years that you've really had to take charge of your life. And I'm curious, even if we go all the way back, you had brought up that you were really bullied growing up in your small town. I think I relate to that in a lot of ways. I was horribly bullied in my small town and could not wait to get away from there. And I've recently come to terms with the fact that a lot of the things that were said about me and to me, even back then, became like the own negative dialogue that was going on in my own head. Even though I didn't necessarily believe it, it was like almost I was just programmed to believe it. When you started doing some of the internal work and actually really trying to look inner, did you realize that that was kind of a similar thing? Has that been part of your journey?
100%. I think I was bullied in high school, I think because like I didn't fit into a mold. So like, I've looked pretty similar to this since I was like 14, I hit puberty young, had boobs young, I just was like a woman, like super young. And I think for other adolescents, that's quite like challenging, right? It's just like a kind of like different frequency. And I think people challenge what they kind of don't understand. And I think it was way more than like people are like, oh, they bully the pretty girl at school. And like, I don't think it's that at all. I think it was like, I didn't actually feel comfortable in myself and in my own body and going through all these changes so quickly and so much quicker than other people. And I think that was reflected back at me if I didn't really like myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like so many things have been reflected back at me, like pretty much unpacking all the way down to like not feeling deserving of things. And like that being just like a theme throughout my life of like not feeling deserving. So then people weren't treating me like I was deserving of things, like I was lesser than. And
Mhm.
like, yeah, we could unpack that for hours, but I've seen that reflected back at me for a very long
That's
time.
so fascinating. And when you say that, I can't get over the fact that you were in a relationship and your boyfriend cheated on you. And I think, as dumb as it is to say, like, how does a girl like you get cheated on? But truly, how does a girl like you get cheated on? And how does he not realize what he has? But then I also realize the older and wiser that I get is that it has nothing to do with you at
No.
all. And if you settle thinking that you don't deserve love or you don't deserve more, you're not going to demand that in your life. So
Mhm.
when you were at that age, because there's a lot of our listeners that are in toxic relationships and that are settling and have not yet figured out those boundaries. What are
Yeah,
some things that you had to learn and go through to be able to now be in a very healthy, happy relationship?
totally. For me, it was like, I think I was 21 when we met. So I was pretty young. And I think it came from a place of I didn't have any boundaries. So why would he have boundaries? You know, I was like anything goes. Like I will almost to a point of like unconditional love and like thinking you can fix people and like thinking that like you can be the one to like change it all. I think that's a theme in like so many people's like toxic relationships of women feeling like I can be the person to change them and I can be the one to fix it all. But like you're completely blatantly ignoring complete respect for yourself because like it isn't our job just because we may have like a maternal instinct or an instinct to fix and to heal and to nurture, which is like a beautiful quality to have. It is not our job to fix other people. And like you can't fix other people, like they're on their own journey themselves, that you can inspire them and you can love on them and be their support system. But like it isn't our job to fix them. And I think like the only way that you can like deserve respect in a relationship is like when you take your power back from the relationship. Like I was like, if I give unconditional love, if I give 150% of myself, if I am always there even when he treats me poorly, like one day, he's gonna like just like love me and support me and be the person I need him to be because I'm giving him everything for someone that was giving me like the bare minimum, right? And it's like the energy that you're putting out, like we don't have unlimited energy. We have like X amount every single day. And you can either dedicate it to things that like fuel you or things that are like not reciprocal, and your energy is going to fade over time. And like that's exactly what happened. I felt like I was with someone that like saw my light and loved my light, but also drained me of that light over time until the point that I didn't know myself. And I think so many people find themselves in that situation. My biggest reflection on that relationship was like, if you want respect, like you have to demand it. You have to act like you deserve it. You have to know that you deserve it. You have to not tolerate it. There were so many red flags that I kind of just ignored because I felt I was manipulated, one. And I felt like, oh, he's got this issue and he's got that issue and he's unhappy and like, oh, he's having a bad day, whatever. But like the more you make excuses for someone, the more you're enabling them to not change, and only they can change themselves. We have lost them to do it. So for me, it's like healthy boundaries, like staying in your power and like understanding that like you are fundamentally deserving of like love, respect, and intimacy on every level. And just like not settling because you're being manipulated. I think a lot of people settle because they're being manipulated in a relationship. I know that was me.
Did you know at the time that you were being manipulated in your relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. But I purposely put it in my subconscious because I didn't want to acknowledge that I was being manipulated, because I was blinded by like unconditional love and I can fix him. So I wanted to like ignore that it was manipulation because I wanted to operate in a place of like, I can fix you. And if I acknowledge that like he was manipulating me, then like you can't fix him because he's a manipulator and a narcissist, right? So I think for me, yeah, it was like that heartbreak had to teach me like healthy boundaries. And like I know he regrets it to this day. And like we've had conversations and we're friends now because like I hold nothing, no hate or anger or sadness towards him, just like a need for him to do better for his partner now. And I also think like that's my other thing is like as women, right? What matters is that like we stand together. I just think there's so many times where like people are cheating and whatever, and it's like, I don't know, like I'm not going to go into the details of it, but there's been several times in my life where like I've known that somebody was giving me attention that had a girlfriend. And I just think it's like, it's within our own like love for our fellow women to like not entertain that. Do you know what I mean? Like now, if I get like a DM from a guy and I know he's got a wife or a girlfriend, it's just like, oh, ah, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, literally. And I think that was a big realization for me. It was like surround yourself with the kind of women that would always have your back on those things. And I think for just women in general, like we have to stand together and like not tolerate that crap, because you have to remember the universe is a mirror and your karmic footprint is everywhere. So like I'm a firm believer, it's like you don't want to be treated badly, don't enable other people to treat other women badly, right?
Yep. And when you have that respect for yourself, you're going to demand it, and you won't entertain things that would disrespect you and disrespect another woman.
Exactly.
But when you don't have that respect for yourself, I think it's a little bit easier to ignore right and wrong.
100%, 100%. And I think that's where you have to come to it. Like, I just had to set myself like a fun list of values. Like, what are my values? And I just don't bend them for anybody. Not in the modeling industry, not in relationships, not in friendships. I don't care if it makes people uncomfortable. Like, they're my fundamental values. And if they don't align with you, we have to realize that not every person is meant for us. And I'm fine with that. It doesn't mean we have to not like each other. We don't click, and that's okay. And I think just like embracing that, like, not every person is for you. And like, that's so okay. We don't have to be best friends with everyone. All that matters is like we fundamentally know what we value and we hold that like strong within us.
That's quite the realization for a people pleaser. Pretty impressed.
Thanks.
Very impressive, because I wish that I heard that growing up, when it was really just like you make everybody else around you comfortable. And even now, I still feel uncomfortable when I make other people uncomfortable, because I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'll just like sacrifice my own comfort and well-being for others. And I have to like check myself.
100%. Like, I'm just going to dull myself down for a second, keep everybody else happy. Hey, I'm perfect at it
Do
all the time.
that.
I'm absolutely not like perfect at it, but I'm a damn sight better than I was before. Get respect from people now because it's all energy, you know.
Mhm.
People pick up on your energy and your frequency and like where you're sitting in life. And I think people pick up on like if you're somebody that like demands respect,
Without a doubt.
you
So when
know?
you leave that relationship, weren't you living in New York at the time and then you went back to LA after that relationship ended, right?
I was living in London.
You're living in London. My girl, you've been so many places. I can't keep up with you.
I've
So
been
you're out of the relationship. How long after that did you have this health crisis?
literally like almost instantly.
Mm.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. So I ended up having like a surgery because I was like really sick. And then I got like a crazy infection. Then I took 16 rounds of antibiotics. Like 4 months later, it still wasn't better. And then, yeah, basically, I ended up like cystic acne, interstitial cystitis, chronic urinary tract infections, like chronic food intolerances, like went from being able to eat anything to like not being able to eat anything at all. Rosacea, really bad. I couldn't even like go out in the sun. I remember like 2018 summer, I just like sat inside all day crying because I just like was in so much pain. My skin hurt. Lost half my hair. There's a lot more. I mean, rheumatoid arthritis, like all the things. Yeah.
And all in a really short, compact period of time. And you had been healthy up to that point. And also, this is the height of your modeling career. And you're literally being paid to be beautiful on set. And it sounds like everything was stripped from you. Was that an identity crisis?
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to say like dark night of the soul, but it was like it was definitely a moment in my life that wasn't no, that's not true. It was transformative. Let's put it that way.
I love
It
that.
was painful and it made me reevaluate so many parts of myself. For instance, like when my like ex and I split up, I was like, he didn't love me when I was at my best. Like when I was like a Sports Illustrated model and like I was blowing up doing all these modeling jobs, right? And like, and he still didn't love me, still didn't think that I was worthy. So in my head, I was like, well, why is this new guy gonna love on me when I'm literally at my worst? I have cystic acne, I've lost half of my hair, I am so depressed, I am like, you know, all these things. I'm plunging money on health. Like I was like, he didn't love me when I was at my best. Like, why is this guy not love me when I'm at my worst, right? Because I had like no fundamental worth of the person that I was apart from my exterior, which is wild
Mhm.
to get to like 23, 24 years old and realize your entire value is based on your appearance. What a shallow and sad life that is that I realized. And I think that was the darkest moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm depressed because of like my hormone imbalance right now, but also because of like this trauma and this relationships that's happened. And then also like my health going out of control and not having a support system, I feel depressed. But also, I felt so depressed because I had this realization of like, wow, my entire value system for myself is fundamentally based on just my appearance. Like that was like, wow, okay, what a life. I did not grow up like that, you know? I think that was like the 5 years of modeling. Like for sure, when I was growing up as a teenager, people would, you know, when you're beautiful, like there's no like, you can't say that you don't get compliments and this and that. And I think the more compliments you get when you're a young girl, it's like when they say, like, when you're a mother and you have a daughter, like, stop just saying she's pretty, or you're so pretty and you're so beautiful. Like, tell her she's smart and brave and all those things. And I think that was like, I was always like, you're so pretty and you're so beautiful. And I didn't realize until that moment that, oh my gosh, my entire life, my entire value has been based on my fundamental superficial appearance instead of like the depths of myself, of who I am and my soul. And that was just the darkest moment because it was like, wow, I've been living my life literally based on a shell of myself. And I think that was the hardest thing for me to unpack because I had to teach myself, like, okay, yes, this guy did that when you're at your best. Now you have this beautiful man who like loves you at your like worst. And then realizing you're the exact same human being but your soul is actually probably evolved to be an even better person. Of course he loves you, you know, instead of being like basing everything on this like superficial appearance. And I think that was the darkest moment more than like any of my health journey, because I had to realize I had to teach myself to value myself beyond that point, and I didn't really know where to start.
That's hard to do, especially when you're forced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You have no choice. And our mental health, I think it's easy to kind of neglect mental health when things seem to be going good and you just don't really think it's something that deserves focus. But then when you're met with those feelings of depression and some mental health issues, it's like, how do you pick up pieces when you didn't even realize that the pieces were missing? So, what
Mm-hmm.
does your first steps look like when you were like, okay, I got to start focusing on my mental health before I can even go to my gut health and the other things that are going on?
Totally. Yeah, I just remember being like, I remember one day I woke up, and I think it's a mixture of different things. And if people have triggers around like suicide and really depressive thoughts, maybe switch off for a second. I remember waking up one morning and I was in this beautiful house in LA. Like I had this beautiful bedroom that looked over like all of the canyons. Like I was living a blessed life regardless of my health situation. And I remember just waking up and turning to Tom and just being like, I just feel like I have like no reason to be here. And I remember being like feeling this deep emptiness, and it's still like still chokes me up. It was like I knew how blessed I was. It wasn't that I wasn't grateful. Everyone's like, if you're grateful, you can't be depressed. And like I completely don't agree. I was like, I have everything. Like really, like my looks don't matter right now, you know? I'm like, I have this beautiful man, this beautiful house, like, you know, like I'm living a blessed life, but I feel so depressed. And it was that that made me feel so empty, because I knew how great my life was, but I still felt so empty. And it was because I hadn't taught myself to value myself for like all the things that had been like stripped from me. Like I was like, oh, this person loves me, so therefore I am worthy of love. It was always like, that person thinks I'm beautiful, so therefore I must be beautiful. And like that is my self worth. So I realized I had to like go inward and like teach myself all the reasons I had to be of value. And that was really hard. Super hard. But I think the first place I started was like I started journaling a lot. And I would just journal down like how I felt. And then I would start tracing back like, when did that thought start? When did I literally like, but this is how my brain works. I'm very much like a logical person, like step by step by step. And I remember just like writing it down and just feeling like I don't feel like I'm deserving of love. Like I feel like that was the first thing. And then being like, well, where did that start? Let's unpick that, you know? And then I'd be like, when did I start feeling this? And I just start writing like this time and this time and this time. And it's like, well, where did that come from? You know, who instilled that belief in you? And then like, I just basically had to unpick where these things came from and getting down to the root of like, okay, I think that that limiting belief came from this experience or this person or whatever. And it's like, I can either choose to hold on to that and choose to not value myself based on a stupid opinion of somebody, or, you know, something someone said or an experience that I had. Or I can choose to like cut that tie, walk on a new path, and like embrace that about myself and not allow somebody else's story to dictate my life, you know? And I think
Mhm.
that was like my first step. And I'm just a very logical person, but I basically just recognized like every single limiting belief I had in my life of like, I'm not deserving of love. I don't see beauty in myself. I am low in confidence. Like, where did that come from? Being worthy of, I'd always, I'd always be really uncomfortable when people would do nice things for me. I would like get a car door for someone, or I would pay for someone's dinner, or I would like go pick up somebody's groceries. But if someone did it for me, I'd be so uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, so where did I learn that I wasn't deserving of receiving, being on the receiving end of kindness? Why did I feel like
Mm.
I had to be on the giving side of kindness? And like that's where self-awareness comes in, right? I think like going through like a health situation or a tragic circumstance, like a breakdown of a relationship or whatever, I think it forces you to become super self-aware. And I think the best thing you can do with self-awareness is to then like acknowledge, like, okay, I'm aware of these things. I'm aware of these limiting beliefs. And then unpicking just like bit by bit, like where they came from and whether you want to allow them to continue to dictate how you feel about yourself and how you live your life. And I know that I didn't want that anymore.
Wow. I am releasing a confidence course, and the first exercise is mindset. And what I take people through is writing down the first negative thought that comes to your mind, remembering where it came from, crossing it out, and rewriting it. And that's exactly what you did. And I really do think that when people think about confidence or rebuilding your life or the way that you look, like they don't understand that the work has to start in your mind. And you
Yeah.
have to take control of your thoughts and the way that you view yourself. And until you do that, you will never feel fulfilled.
Mhm.
No amount of money, no relationship, no house,
Yeah.
no amount of beauty is going to make you feel fulfilled until you can go through that. So I think that's really incredible that you had the
Mhm.
foresight to do that then. And I'm sure it's something you continue to do now.
Yeah, thank you. No, definitely. I think I was at my quote most successful, beautiful, young, like making a lot of money, whatever. It was my most unhappy. So like I can speak from like general experience with that.
Isn't that interesting? I
Hmm.
also think that when people look into the modeling industry, and if you haven't had experience in it, it's so glamorous. When you're actually in it, you're like, it can be glamorous and there's benefits to it. I mean, that's how we connected. I'm grateful for that. But
Of
there's a
course.
lot of ugliness to it. And I
Yeah.
think that it almost doesn't get the respect, for lack of a better word, that models deserve because they are human beings that a lot of them are really struggling, even though everything looks good from the outside. So I think it's a really good reminder that you cannot judge a book by its cover. You can't
No.
judge and just assume that nothing's going on behind the scenes. Because
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like the models that we had both met in New York City, that a lot of the top ones that were doing really, really well in their careers were really struggling with their confidence and their mental health.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, to be honest. Yeah, I definitely got to a point with the modeling industry where I was just like my happiness and my self-worth and my mental health is like worth so much more than any job. Like my agents know. I'm like, if it's not a good team, don't put me forward for it because I won't go.
Good. Boundaries.
So much of my energy, I'm like, no, I just like won't do it. Like it's just not worth it for me. And that's not because I have an abundance of money. It's literally because like I care about myself more and I care about my mental state more because I've had it completely go to shit. And I just won't do that again, you know?
Respect for yourself.
I will keep repeating until you learn that lesson.
I hope you're loving this episode as much as I am. Georgia's story is truly such an inspiring one, and you're about to hear all about her health crisis, which absolutely changed her life. When we're disconnected from our bodies, it's easy to ignore some of the signals it's sending us or brush them off as normal. Sometimes our internal health will be reflected externally, which is what happened with Georgia. What first started as acne and rosacea led her on a health journey with multiple crippling diagnoses, where doctors told her she'd never fully heal. But Georgia knew that our gut health is truly the center of all health and began healing from the inside out. Now, healing our gut is never a one size fits all. We all need a personalized approach, which is one of the reasons we partnered with Gut Personal. Gut Personal develops science backed gut health supplements developed by functional medicine dietitians. If you take their quiz on their website, their team develops a personalized supplement regimen for you, aiming to get to the root cause of your gut health issues. If you want to take it a step further, like I did, they offer gut testing from the comfort of your home. And then their lead dietitian analyzes those results and creates a custom protocol. Now, if you're ready to invest in your gut health, I highly recommend checking out Gut Personal. They've given our listeners an exclusive 10% discount on all supplements and testing when you use code MORETHAN at checkout. Now let's get back to chatting with Georgia. So much of our mental health is associated with our guts. And I know that we've talked about gut brain connection. It's huge. People don't really listen to that because they are
Oh, yeah.
so strongly correlated. It's insane. So I
Yeah.
know you've studied like crazy for your own personal reasons, and now you're able to help other people. But
Yeah.
what did you start with your gut journey, knowing you were on what, 16 different antibiotics you were saying?
Yeah, I did 16 rounds of antibiotics, but wasn't a really good idea. Now I look back at it, but here we are.
Well, when you don't know better, you're like, okay, well, if it's going to help the infection and then if I can work and if I'm healthy, like I'll do whatever.
Totally. I just had I had no education, you know, and no support system, so I didn't know any better. If I had like my family, maybe I would have gone about that differently, you know. But it's just a different. It was just circumstance. Yeah, I basically went through. I had food intolerances, interstitial cystitis, rosacea, acne, hair loss, endocrine disorder, HPV, all things, and the first place that I started was going to a million places and wanting to be fixed, right? Because that's what we do. We,
Mm-hmm.
especially in our Western culture, is we just like, we want a quick fix. And I was very much that person that just like wanted a quick fix. Like, I wanted to get back to modeling, I wanted to get back to my fast paced life so that I didn't have the time to keep doing the work because it's exhausting and tiring and confronting to do work on yourself, right? So I kind of just like wanted my life to go back to normal so I could bury it all and just like continue about my day. And it's just like not how the body works or how health works. So basically I like tried everything, like nothing like really answered my calling. And then I got a recommendation from a friend. She was like, "Are you open to holistic medicine?" And I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And I walked into this office at this like beautiful lady in Los Angeles, and she was a traditional Chinese herbalist. And I remember walking in and I smelled the smell of the herbs and it smelled like the earth, and it was like so calming. And I saw her and I remember just like knowing I was in the right place, and it still like chokes me up. I think I feel it because I felt so lost. I tried everything, like nothing was helping. And I was like, I don't want to live in pain like this for the rest of my life. And I remember seeing her and she was just like, I've got you. She was like really like mothering, which is what I needed at that time. And then I found traditional Chinese medicine, like still chokes me up because like, I don't know, I had tried it all. And for me, like I found so much healing in that modality. And once I'd gone ahead and studied it, I mean like 7,000 years of knowledge of plants that have like never been altered. You know, they're still in their like original state, being majoritively harvested in their traditional ways. Um, and just like the spirits of those plants, you know, like it's like a real honor to like work with them and just all the nurturing that like they bring to the human body. And then just the belief system in Chinese medicine that like almost nothing can be treated. It's just an imbalance, like no matter what disease it is. And I just really resonated with that because I was like, I'm too young to have all of these health issues, you know? And I remember her just being like, no, it's just an imbalance. Like there's no disease, there's just disease chi. There's just like stagnation that needs to be moved, you know, there's just imbalance in the body. And that really resonated with me. And with the gut stuff, I guess the first place that I started was with Chinese herbs. And basically, like, I guess what I teach now is like cleansing, reseeding, rebuilding the gut. So, like, recognizing you have whatever it is, fungal, bacterial, viral load, parasites, kind of cleansing the body of those things while supporting the chi mechanisms to support like the overall organs, because most people have like poor detox capacity. So like it's really important that you don't just try and detox the whole body at once when the body is detoxed. It's already like full. It's hard to explain, but basically like if your detox pathways aren't open, it's kind of like you've got a dirty sponge and you're trying to clean a car with it. Like you
Hmm.
have to kind of clean out the detox pathways before you like really start to like cleanse the body of those like bad bacterias and pathogens and things like that. So I did like some courses on like safe detox protocols for like a functional medicine doctor. And I did herbal medicine and I kind of developed my own understanding of different sensitivities. You know, I was like super sensitive to probiotics, which everybody says is a good thing. And like, I guess I have this really broad understanding of like, I guess how the gut works. People think that the gut brain connection is like a one-way street. Like, you know, the way that we think influences our gut microbiome, but also our gut microbiome influences the way that we think. So it's like a two-way street, which I think is really, really interesting. Like that's the beautiful thing about Chinese medicine is there is no differentiation between toxins. Like what you eat can become a toxin, but your thought can become a toxin. They don't differentiate between toxins. So like any emotion that isn't expressed is stored in the body and stored as a toxin. It's literally that simple. So that's where I learned, like, for someone that holds everything in, I learned like having to express your emotion. I think that's like one of the key parts of like healing your gut. It was a huge part of healing my rosacea. This whole story would take us 3 hours to go through, so I'm trying to keep it really little, but my rosacea was just a gut imbalance. That's all it was. And stored
Wow.
emotion. It was like suppressed anger, suppressed frustration, not feeling worthy, having like pent up just like frustration and anger in my body over feeling like I had been so wronged in my life. Like working through that, working through the gut imbalance, I had like Klebsiella overgrowth, like clearing that gut imbalance with like antimicrobial herbs and like supporting the gut, restoring the flora. I didn't have rosacea again. And I still get people all the time on my Instagram that are like, you can't say you're cleared of rosacea because rosacea is not curable. Like you can say that you're in remission. And I'm like, that is the kind of attitude. I'm sorry for anyone that feels this way, but that is the kind of attitude to me that keeps people sick. Like, if you can't believe that you have healed your body of something, that you are defining yourself by a label given to you by whoever and whatever, then you're condemning yourself to that disease. You're literally condemning yourself to, okay, somebody told me I have rosacea, so even though I have no symptoms, one day it's going to come back. Well, you know what? It probably will come back. That's your mindset. So I always go back to people and I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not serious. I'm not saying everything is a cure all, but like, if you're in remission, you want to be like telling yourself that you're cured. And like the thing about like healing your body, if you're actually healing it, it's always going to go like this. And you're always going to get setbacks and you're always going to get little flare ups and it's going to knock you back. Like you have to embrace that the body wants to heal. The body doesn't want to be in a disease state. Like it wants to be healthy, happy, and thriving. The thing that holds it back often is like our actual mental state. And like our mental state creates stagnation, which then like stops the body healing. And it's just like a vicious cycle, right?
It's
So
all connected.
literally I do like a cleansing protocol, a reseeding protocol, and then like a healing protocol. And the healing protocol looks like a lot of different amino acids, healing herbs, making sure like the dynamic in the intestines is really good to like keep the peristalsis and keeping things moving, because like that's the key of the body. Anything that stagnates becomes like a toxin or like generates like heat and it's hard to explain it in Western terms, but like it just creates imbalance, you know? So that's pretty much what I do now. Most of my,
That's so fascinating. So
yeah.
fascinating. And I love hearing you talk about it because I'm like, I literally could listen to you talk all day, every day. But I think it's so interesting when you had said, because I have never experienced Chinese herbalists. I've never taken herbs. I've gone to a lot of different naturopaths, but I've learned that naturopaths all kind of handle it differently and they use different things.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting when you're talking about like anger being stored in the body and needing to release that stuff. How did you release it? What does that look like? Is that therapy? Is that journaling? How did you get it out of your body?
I think for everyone, they're drawn to different modalities, right? Like some people love breath work. Like
Yeah.
for me, I find breath work can be a little triggering. Um, I I found a kinesiologist. That was a big part of my healing. She was a beautiful, like older lady called Lynn. And kinesiology is basically where like they channel your energy and then they help you like shift through the imbalances in your body. It's not there's functional kinesiology, it's more like chiropractic, but like pure kinesiology is basically like them channeling your energy. And I found so much healing through that. I remember she would just touch me and I would just cry.
That's
I
wild.
feel like the heat like build up in my face where I get my rosacea and all the emotion. I just remember just feeling like I was gonna vomit when we'd be working together.
Mm.
Um So I did like a lot of kinesiology. I did a lot of journaling, and I also did like physical, like anger release. Like I have always felt like someone that like didn't want to make a scene, right? So like I'd never want to like make a scene or kind of want to like stand out or like draw attention to myself. So I'm not one to like really express my emotions. Like I would never like scream or shout or like do anything, right? And like I found a lot of healing in like literally screaming into a pillow, like just like letting it out. And that really helped. Like kinesiology, journaling, and then like expression. I remember I was having a really hard time with the HPV diagnosis, and I remember I was sitting on my floor in my room and I was just like meditating, and that's kind of how it always starts. I like start meditating, like whatever comes through to me comes through to me. And then I remember just like sitting there and like hysterically crying for like I reckon it would have been like 2.5 hours. And then just like literally burying my head in a pillow and just like letting everything out. Because I think in our society there's so much shame around expressing your emotions. It's like I hate the expression ugly crying. I hate that, like more than anything. I hate the word hate, but like I really can't stand that when people are like, "Oh, you're ugly crying." It's like, why do we have to associate crying with ugliness? You
Yeah.
know, it's like it it straight away puts shame on the person that's expressing their emotions because it's like that's ugly. We don't want to do things that are ugly, you know? And like if you're expressing your emotion, I'm gonna guarantee that like it's not cute, you know? It's just
It's
like
not
not
supposed to be.
it's not supposed to be. It's meant to be like a true freedom of expression that's like authentic and genuine and like an experience that like you're not trying to share with people, so you don't really care if people think it's ugly, right?
Hmm.
And I think I had burdened myself for so long around like not wanting to like, like ugly cry or people to think things of me and like not to be too loud and not to express myself in a way that wasn't ladylike or like in a way that people would find comfortable, you know?
Hmm.
I think I got a lot to get out of my system. And I started meditating a lot and like just giving myself permission. And that like transformed my health really fast because I've never given myself permission to be free with my emotions. And I think when I did that, that was when I saw the biggest change in my health. Definitely with my rosacea, I just like went away.
That's wild.
I
And
know.
I love that you did that without doing anything that like typical dermatologists and pharmaceutical companies will try and just give you all the pills, all the creams, all of that. And just not that those things, I'm sure maybe they work for some people, but I
Totally.
think when you are just trying to heal a symptom and not getting to the root cause, you'll
Totally.
never actually be healthy.
Totally. I think what you have to remember is like everybody's on their own healing journey. So I'm not the person to sit here and be like, Chinese medicine is for everyone. It's going to fix everybody's problems. I have been on a healing journey, so I know that's not the case because like everybody's on their own trajectory and their own healing journey. And like if the pharmaceutical is where you're at in your journey right now, then like I support you. And it's like that's what you want to do. Like I'm just here to be like, your perfect advocate, you know? Um, but yeah, it wasn't my journey. My journey was like I'm also, I don't know if anyone likes astrology, but my moon is like in Scorpio. So it's very much like I like to go to like the dark, like depths of myself to like really try and experience life on a very like deep level. And I think that really showing in my life. I so desperately wanted to feel like myself again. And I didn't care like how much it had to hurt or how much time or how much energy it was going to take. I just wanted to feel free of like that darkness and that heaviness that was inside me. And I think the only way I did that was literally by giving myself permission to express my emotions however I felt like I needed to. And once I did, the treatment of the Klebsiella overgrowth that was in my gut treated this SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and like really worked on that emotional release. Like the rosacea just like didn't exist anymore because rosacea in Chinese medicine they call it empty heat. So it's like hard to explain, but basically there's like full heat, which is like it's excess, it's like too much of something, right? Whereas like empty heat is basically like a deficiency of like what they say is like the yin fluids, which is like the feminine. It's like the calm, it's like the nourishment within the body, if that makes sense. And empty
Hmm.
heat arises when like that part of the body hasn't been nourished, if that makes sense. So like it can be like a full heat or an empty heat condition, but most of the time with women, it's empty heat. Like they'll see like hot flashes when they're going through like menopause, for example. And that's because like the yin, like the female kind of like uh, the fluids and the nourishment are like depleting over time. So that's why women can get these symptoms through menopause where they get hot flushes or they can develop rosacea. So it's like, I guess that was my experience of like having this like empty heat, basically from like a lack of nourishment in my body. And then like this built up, pent up emotion and anger. And then I addressed it all. And now I don't have it anymore. I wear blush.
That's wow. That's wild. How long would you say from the beginning when you first started noticing external symptoms, you started noticing that you were having rosacea, to going through this journey and feeling like you had finally gotten to a place where you felt as healed as you are now? How long?
I reckon I reckon I noticed it August 2018. And I think by 2020 I didn't have any symptoms.
So you were patient and you stuck with it.
I was patient.
That's not a quick fix.
No, it took like a year and a bit. Yeah.
Wow.
But I also like had to fix my gut health, had to fix, like the bacterial overgrowths, had to fix like all of that emotional stuff. And like when I say that, it was basically a trajectory of having full blown rosacea, couldn't go out in the sun, to like being able to go for a beach day and like not even worry about it. It was like a slow process of like got better and better. Like I wouldn't have a flare up for 3 weeks and then I would have a little flare up and then I wouldn't have a flare up for 2 months and I'd have a little flare up. It was just like a trajectory over time. And the thing is, I think what happens is people experience those little flare ups. And when you're experiencing a chronic condition, those flare ups feel like the end of the world because you think you're finally clear of something and then it smacks you in the face. But like that is literally just the universe telling you you're not done. So keep going. But so many people give up because they're like, it's never going to go away. And it's like, no, 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 you're just not done. The body is not done. It's just the beautiful thing about the skin is it's literally our external barrier to the world. It's the way that our body like communicates with the universe. So it's literally like anything that is within us likely will show up on our skin. So it's literally like our boundary. It's like our safety net, it like covers our entire body. And I think until you address everything you have to address, it will just keep signaling. And that's actually a really beautiful thing because instead of you like trying to figure out what's going on, your skin's like, hey, we're still not done here. We're still not done here. This is going on or that's going on. And honestly, my skin issues, like the rosacea and the acne, was definitely one of the hardest things I'd ever been through, purely because anyone that has a skin condition, especially if it's on your face, but anywhere on your body, it's the way that you connect with other people. It's the way that you connect with yourself. And it's so much more than like it affecting your appearance. It affects your everyday connections. And I think that's so much more exhausting in yourself. But I actually realized that my health journey and my skin conditions were my greatest pain that has become my greatest superpower because I was forced to learn and to love myself on like so many deeper levels than in a way that I was operating. And I was also forced to decompress what the hell that was going on that was forcing those symptoms to come up. And now I have this beautiful compassion to anyone that's like experiencing any kind of like chronic health condition because I understand. And I think that's an incredible superpower. I think compassion is it runs the universe. If we all had more compassion, the world would be a beautiful place, right? So I truly think my greatest pain has become my greatest superpower. And I actually would never take back anything that happened to me. Like the cheating, the skin, the emergency rooms with crazy kidney infections, the gut issues, the pain, like all the things. I wouldn't take back any of it. Like I would do it all over again if I had to, because it really has like shaped me into a different person. And I think like that is so worth it. So if anyone's going through like anything that is causing them pain and getting them down, your pain either becomes your greatest superpower or your greatest purpose. And I think that is like just such a beautiful thing.
It's such a beautiful thing because look at the trajectory of your life now. And you're able to use your story and your journey and help other people. And I think so often people look at our stories, which there's unfair things that happen to all of us. We've all been through trauma. We've all been through some really difficult things. But then we also have an opportunity where we can take control of a narrative. And I
Mhm.
think once you differentiate the two and you kind of rewrite your narrative and rewrite your story and realize that the things that happen to you sometimes happen for you, it's a
Mhm.
beautiful perspective that's really freeing. And I think that
Yeah.
I'm even watching you now, like you radiate when you talk about this and now everything that you're doing to help everybody else. I think it's really, really beautiful that you chose to lean into that uncomfort instead of just running away from it.
Yeah, 100%. I think I thought about it for so long. I was like, I could keep making really good money as a model, working full time, and just like keep doing that, but not feeling super fulfilled. Or I can dive into the unknown, which is a new career. I can take a massive pay cut, but I can work day to day with people on their health and their well being and be completely fulfilled, but probably really stressed. And I had to make that conscious decision, you know? It's like, do I run towards what's comfortable, what I know, what makes life a little easier, or run towards what I know is my purpose? The universe has just like aligned me in every, oh my gosh, corner of my life. The most serendipitous things have happened. Um, I can tell you then, but it's like it'll take a while. It's actually crazy the way that I've been like so directed to herbalism, like to the point that like my first, it was crazy, but my first ever patient, she's now having a baby, and the name that she's called her baby is the name of the new herbal dispensary that I'm now like starting to run my small business out of.
Wow.
The
There's no
universe.
coincidences. There's no such thing as
I'm
coincidences.
like, okay, I see you, universe. Like, all right, I get it. So there's just been so many things like that. That's like, Georgia, like, we need you over here. It's uncomfortable, but you have to do it. And honestly, like, as soon as I leaned into that, I just like really felt like I stepped into like my power and my purpose. And like that comes from like my greatest pain. And I think that is such a beautiful thing and a way to, live a life that is like so fulfilling. And if I'd never experienced that pain and that whole, like, I guess kind of like life altering, path diverting, pivoting experience, I wouldn't be doing this now, which is amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
What does confidence mean to you now? Because I know it used to just be associated with your external appearance. You've evolved so much since then. So what does it look like for Georgia to be confident?
Confidence to me, wow, what a loaded question.
Very.
So loaded. I'm like, wow, I can unpack this. As you can tell, I tend to like just unpack for a while. Confidence to me, I think, is walking into a room of a bunch of people I don't know and feeling I'm going alone and being completely okay in my own company and not needing anyone else's approval. That to me is confidence, because it's like I know that I've fulfilled that I don't need to people please. I don't need to fit in. I don't need to find where I fit, and I can stand alone. And to me, like those four things, it's like I'm unstoppable. Like that to me is confidence. I think confidence to me is also like walking into my modeling agency to do digitals and like having a pasta the night before and feeling great about myself and great about my body, because I really couldn't care what you guys think about my body because it's mine and I love it and it's functioning for me to get me through every single day of my life. And I'm just grateful for that. So what you guys think really doesn't mind to me. And I think confidence to me, I think, is being able to speak your truth and be 100% real, authentic, and genuine with your truth, and embracing that not everyone is going to like you and not everyone's going to like your truths. And that's okay.
And that's okay. That's
Mhm.
really, really hard to get to when you're in the thick of being a people pleaser. If you don't really know who you are, you don't know your values, just like what you were saying in the beginning. You really have to strip it down and think like, what do I value? What is the minimum that I need to give to myself and expect for other people to give to me in order to have that respect and that self-esteem and that confidence that's going to radiate. And I think that it's a journey. It looks differently for everybody. And that's why that's such a fun question, because I think confidence, we always associate it with how somebody looks. And it really has nothing to do with how they look.
No, no, I've been my least confident when people think I look my absolute best.
It's
Yeah.
wild how that happens, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You had brought up, you met your boyfriend and you guys
Yeah.
have been together for a while now, and he was really part of your entire journey and helping you heal. And I thought it was really cool anytime you chose to share bits and pieces of your relationship, and he was cooking for you and you guys are moving to different locations and really helping you blossom into this woman. And I think it takes an incredible person to be able to do that. I'd love to hear whatever you're comfortable sharing about your relationship now and what has been some of the qualities that you value so much in somebody like that coming from a toxic relationship.
You're gonna make me cry again. I think I've almost cried 3 times in this. As you can tell now, I just like let my emotions flow.
Good.
Um, no, 100%. I think I have to open this loaded question again with a statement that I firmly believe in. A lot of people will say that you can't, and I'm gonna cry, but like I'm just gonna embrace it. You can't like be loved by someone else until you love yourself, and I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I think it's complete BS. I was a shell of myself. And I think if you have met the right person, they will help you mend the pieces that are broken, and they will embrace the parts of you that are empty, and they will help you rediscover the love that you have for yourself. I completely agree that. I do not believe that like all therapists are like, well, you have to know yourself, and you have to be whole with yourself, and you have to love yourself, and to be able to be loved by somebody else. And like that is not my experience at all. I was a shell of myself. I was literally having surgery on this guy that I'd met for 3 days' birthday. And he came with me and he picked me up and he took me to his house and he cooked for me and he made me eggs. It was the first time a guy had like cooked for me, and I burst into tears, and like he just like looked after me. I remember I had like bandages, then I got my eyes lasered, so I had goggles on. Like, okay, so you guys can just picture it. I've got like bandages on like all these like sores, then I've got like goggles on, and this guy's just like known me for a week and been like, do you want some breakfast? Literally. Like I was a shell of myself. I didn't like myself. I was heartbroken. I was a mess. I wasn't even the greatest person to be around. I wasn't proud of the person I was at that time because I was in survival mode. I was just trying to keep my head above water, right? And he just like took me in and like loved me and looked after me, even though I did not love myself. And I was not a great person to be around. And so many therapists would probably be like, you can't go into a relationship like that. Well, we've been together for 6 years. We're each other's best friend. Yeah. Like I don't agree with like that narrative of relationships. And I think so many people are like, just like going through a lot right now. And everybody has a story. And if everybody thought they had to 100% love themselves before they found someone else, I think people would just stop trying to meet people because like no one 100% loves themselves. And like when you're going through something, that is the time that like you need someone to be there for you. It's not the time to like withdraw and like think that you're not deserving of love, And that was when I met Thomas. I didn't think I was deserving of love, and I didn't love myself very much at all. And he kind of just forced love on me, and it helped me mend so many pieces of myself that were broken. And I don't think I would have done that myself if it wasn't for meeting him. So I think like he was like a real guardian angel from the universe, being like, you've had a hard time. It's gonna get harder. Here is this like support system that you need. And yeah, we've been together almost 6 years.
It's incredible. Well, clearly he saw something, even if you didn't feel like you were in the best version of yourself possible. I mean, he saw you. And I feel like so many people, even through a screen on social media, you've always done a really good job of conveying your heart, whether you consciously do it or not. But you are such a beautiful, wonderful, incredible person. You always have been. And now seeing you blossom into this stage and being able to feel that yourself, not just being told that, is such a beautiful thing to watch. And I love that you're experiencing that. It like makes me want to cry because
Oh,
I can feel it, and it's amazing. I'm very happy for you.
thank you. Yeah, I've always found social media hard. Everyone's like, it's your brand. It doesn't have to be you. But like, I don't know how to be anything other than myself. And it might not be like the trendiest thing on social media. Everyone's like, no, you just have to like be your brand. And I think if I separated myself from social media and I just was my brand, whatever that is, I would probably find social media easier because it would just be like a transaction. But I don't really know how to be anything other than myself on social media. So I tend to just like be myself. And that might not be the most like modelly version of myself that my agents don't like. And it might not be like the most put together version of myself. And like it might not be the most trendy thing for social media. But like I honestly don't really know how to not just like be myself. And I don't hate myself for it. It's just how I am. So
It's a
yeah.
beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I feel like you can feel that. And now, even when you do go into modeling jobs, I know you're very selective about it, but has your entire mindset surrounding modeling just completely changed?
Oh, 100%. I, you know, I didn't like who I was. No, that's the wrong wording. I wasn't the best version of myself when I didn't have a side hustle or something else to believe in. Like I was modeling and I felt really unfulfilled and really empty. And then I launched Anybody, if you remember, and
Mhm.
that gave me fulfillment. And then when I stopped doing that, I kind of went back to like because when you're just modeling, you don't have a side hustle or another passion or like something else that you enjoy. Your whole life becomes like about you, and it becomes like self-absorbed with like how I look and how I have to show myself to the world, and I have to be perfect all the time. And it's really healthy to have a distraction from that, something that like grounds you in the realism of life. And I really love the person that I am now because I have something that brings me that's not just a side hustle anymore. It's like what I do. It brings me so much grounding and it brings me so much fulfillment and so much love and so much human connection, like genuine connection. I'm not talking about makeup. I'm talking about people's like darkest experiences that they want help with. So it's super fulfilling in that way. So it allows me to go into modeling with much more of a lighter mindset. Like it isn't the be all and end all. I don't actually really need to be here. Like I'm here because I want to be here and I don't have to be here. And I think like making that differentiation puts the power like back in my hands to take the jobs that I want to do with the teams that I know are good people. And it also puts the power back in my hand of like, I don't have to be here. I want to be here. So if anyone makes me feel anything less than the great person that I am, or comments on my body, or says anything, I just won't be here anymore. So it's really like, I guess it's like a very empowering place to be in rather than relying on modeling as like my be all and end all. Cause I wasn't the best version of myself when that was my reality.
Well, I'm glad that it's not anymore because you're so much more, like I said in the very beginning, than just a beautiful face. You always have been. And stepping into your path now, it's really, like I said before, I don't want to cry again. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch. And I love that you realize that so young and so early on in your career because I am
Mm.
so excited to watch all the lives that you're going to be able to transform because you went through such a difficult chapter within your 20s that now you're able to be on the other end and help people walk through. It's a beautiful thing.
I really thought that part of me when I was like kind of in my not a great state, I really felt like my 20s had been stripped from me. Your 20s are meant to be fun. They're like full of mistakes and mystery and play and good times and love and heartbreak, but more love and whatever. And I felt like mine was riddled with like health issues and breakups and just stress, constant stress and survival mode. Like I felt like for so long I had a restriction on play and on fun. I just felt like I couldn't tap into that energy. And I think because I was constantly kind of like this fight or flight mode. And I did have this mindset of like I felt like my 20s had been kind of stripped from me. And now I realize they were never stripped from me. They were actually just like so much more important for such a bigger purpose, you know? And I think that's really beautiful now having that like reflection, but it was really hard in the moment. But it's beautiful when you come out on the other side and you can reflect on these things and see like why it happened, why that is just like a part of your journey.
Yep. Your purpose often comes from helping the person that you once were. And you are living proof of that. And I freaking love that. So, to leave our listeners with a little like tangible snippet that they can start implementing throughout their days, what are some habits or routines or things that are complete non negotiables in a day? I know you mentioned meditation. Is that something that you do every single day?
No, it's not. So I have my rule for my self-care is that self-care is supposed to be for yourself. You're not meant to be ticking boxes. And I think so many people are like, you need to meditate and do breath work and do yoga and stretch, then have a nourishing breakfast and like do your skincare and blah, 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 right? Then so many things. And so many people have like families and children and like that's not tangible for them. And to me, self care is whatever you need. So when I wake up in the morning, it's about like being in touch with like yourself and being in touch with what I need. If I feel like I need to check in with myself, I'll meditate. If I feel like I'm really overwhelmed, I'm anxious, I'll journal because it helps me get it out onto paper. If I wake up and I feel like I need to just like have a massive breakfast and like celebrate myself and like have a coffee with like extra cream, like I'll just do that, because it's what I need. And I think that's what's really hard about this whole like wellness and self-care industry. And like everybody has their tips on their morning routines. And I think it's super overwhelming. Forget everything you've been taught and just teach yourself to reconnect with yourself because like self-care isn't for yourself unless you're honoring your needs. So like wake up every day and tailor your needs to what you need within yourself, and that's going to look different every day because we're different people every day. So like for instance, this morning I woke up late because my dog was sleeping on my pillow the entire night and like bulldog breathing into my face. So I woke up super late. I didn't have much time, but I was feeling anxious. So I like quickly journaled and like got things down on paper, and that was super helpful for me. But yesterday, I literally just got up and went and walked my dogs. I felt like I had to move my body. Every day it is different because every day we're different people. And like self-care is just about honoring our needs, and that's going to look different every day.
It sounds like you're very in tune with yourself. And I think that's super, super rare, but an incredible place for all of our listeners to try to get to. Because, like you said, it's so much of like ticking off boxes that I think once you have that self awareness and once you really learn to be in tune with your needs and your wants, then you can dictate what every day looks like instead of having to like follow strict guidelines. But I think the fact that you put all that work in for so many years has gotten you to a place now that you're able to just feel it out. I think that's really cool.
I just think that so many people put so much pressure on themselves to like, and for some people, they need that structure, right? They need like a checklist of making sure I've done everything in my day. But for me to operate in a place of like operating more so in my feminine than my masculine, because my masculine is like my default setting of like fight or flight, go, 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 like linear and structural. I always try to like operate in a more feminine place of like being flexible with myself. And I think that has become my greatest superpower because I was a checklist to the dot in my calendar person. And I realized that it just wasn't working for me because that was my default setting, And now I trying to be more so in my feminine of like, what do I need? Like, I am flexible and like just honoring myself from that place. And it's really helped me a lot.
That's beautiful. Now,
Yeah.
some of our listeners want to work with you. Are you accepting new clients? Can people work one-on-one? What are next steps?
Yeah. So right now I have in my link tree, like in my bio, I have a wait list. So you guys can join that, put your email in, and you'll get an email as soon as I have a spot come available. A bunch of spots are about to come available next month, actually, because I'm going live with my website and my scheduling and everything. So you can find that in my bio, but you can also, if you ever need anything, you can always DM me on Instagram. It's at Georgia Gibbs _. And I'm always happy to be a support in any way I can on there. So,
And I will link all of that in the show notes so you guys don't have to go find it. And I'm so, so, so glad that I got this time with you. I learn more about you every single time we talk. And I just think that you are such a blessing. You are such a light. And I just appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us.
no, thank you, beautiful. It was honestly like such a pleasure to connect with you again. I wish we could spend more time together.
If you're loving our pod, please take a moment to follow, download, rate, review, and most importantly, share with a friend. These small steps help us continue bringing amazing content every single week. Make sure you're following us on Insta at More Than Ink and subscribe to our newsletter at morethanink.com for exclusive More Than merch drops and info on in-person meetups. We appreciate you chilling with us and are always here to remind you you are so much more than. We'll see you next week.